going? Welcome to Crossfire Live for this week. My name is Emma.
My name is Emily.
How's your week been going, Em?
So far so good. How's yours?
It's been good. I want you to tell me about the grubs because I haven't heard from the grubs or seen the grubs in ages. Tell me about how they're going, what year time's been like. What's the vibe? What's the vibe of the grubs?
The vibe of the grubs is fantastic, actually. Thank you for asking. Some actually like to refer to us as the Braves.
Oh yeah, sorry.
In year time, we've been having a great time. We've been having heaps of Braves come on. We've been playing a bit of Scribble.io.
Okay,
and getting around each other.
I don't know what Scribble.io is.
Scribble.io is pretty much Pictionary, but online.
Okay.
Yes, so your drawing skills are put to the test.
Who's your best Brave drawer?
Oh, I don't know about drawer, but guesser, I think has to be Zoe Shim.
Zoe Shim?
She does good. She does good.
Okay.
Shout out. Yeah.
We should do like a big, how big of a group can you make Scribble.io?
I think your cap's like 10-ish.
Oh,
yeah. Whole Crossfire one.
Yeah, whole Crossfire Scribble.io would be fantastic. I personally am probably the worst drawer in the history of the world. I don't know what it is, but I cannot see something and then draw it. It's like there's a part of my brain
that's what drawing is.
I can trace pretty well. Also, everybody, public service announcement. Chupa Chups are now doing a strawberry matcha flavoured Chupa Chup. It's pretty good. Interesting, but it's pretty good. And I was just telling Em that Chupa Chups remind me, and let me know if this is you as well, of going to the car wash.
It's not me.
Well, I feel like Chupa Chups just have this, because I used to always get a Chupa Chup, but you know how you bought like a Chupa Chup like 20 cents and you picked it out of the thingo? Let me know what your experience with Chupa Chups has been. Right now I feel like I need to go to the car wash.
I'd like to confirm the best flavour is strawberries and cream. You can post in the comments what yours is.
It is pretty good. Or just the strawberry. Like the strawberry.
Just strawberry.
It's pretty good. Anyway, this week in Crossfire, what is happening is we're doing an interview with an awesome guest. Pat Jones is going to introduce us to him. But before we do get into that, we're going to head straight into a game. And yeah, so let's do that now.
Hey guys, welcome to Crossfire. I'm Ali.
And I'm Emily, and today we are decorating a cake in 3 minutes, but blindfolded. There's some lollies. Lollies. Oh! What are you making, Ali?
I don't know. I don't even know what the cake is.
I'm making a rainbow.
I was going to attempt a lion, but I think it's too hard.
I'm still doing my blue sky.
I don't know what colour the eyes in. Can you see?
I can feel it.
What?
It feels blue. Alright.
Oh god.
I think I've accidentally put Coke bottles on
I
mine.
think I just touched your cake. Thanks.
How did it feel? Like a rainbow, I hope. Your hands. I wanted to be Donna Hay, but I'm not. I need some more clouds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds left. I feel like I'm a master chef and Matt Preston's just told me to. Gotta wrap it up.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands up. Okay, right. Oh, it was me.
I thought that was a blue sky. You first, Ali.
Yeah, show us the cake. Hold it up. So this is my line. An attempt. The eyes. The little nose thing. The whiskers. And then just a bit of extra decoration, you know? Who doesn't love them? Up the lines.
Is this a competition?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that looks much like mine. Anyway, this is my rainbow. So this is all of the colours in the arch. I don't think that's terrible. This is meant to be a blue sky, but it's not blue at all. And then the sprinkles were meant to be the little clouds at the bottom of the rainbow, but the bag exploded.
Hey guys, so vote in the comments below who you think has won, Lions or Warriors.
Upper Warriors.
Wow.
Amazing.
That was all time.
Hectic.
That was fantastic.
Amazing.
How funny. That was
So
great.
funny. Hilarious, some would say.
My Chupa Chup has halved itself and I have half I just am sucking on strawberry now, so I've lost the matcha. But we're gonna head into worship now. I wanna ask you, Em,
Yep.
in this weird time where we're not worshipping all together with youth, maybe you're on your year time and people are awkward and turn their things off and their mics off because they're like, worship, don't want to be seen doing that. How do you yourself worship in this time where we're not really worshipping together?
It's a great question, Emma. It's a great question. I think something really powerful about worship is that you get to be in community, but more so than that, God's glory is our greatest goal in worship. So that can look really different for a lot of different people. I think for me, I get really excited for worship because it means that I can just have some time to myself to actually think about God and think about the lyrics. I think I really like to turn off my camera and just have some time by myself too. So I like to sit and listen and sing by myself in my room. Sometimes I get to do that with other people if I'm doing youth with someone else at my house. What does it look like for you, Emma?
Yeah, I think it depends, like sometimes it'll be like me and my grandma, because we've been watching church together, sing together. She has a killer voice, it's wonderful.
Wow.
Or it might be that I even take that time to just sit and let the music wash over me, because sometimes it's nice to just be led and to reflect on the lyrics. But sometimes I do love to just get up and sing and praise.
Interpretive dance.
Yeah, interpretive dance, get the flags out. Because I love worship and I love being excited. And I think it's really easy to do when we're all together in a room. But the best part is that you can actually still do that when you're by yourself. That's how I do it. But we're gonna be led now by our worship team, our wonderful worship team. So prepare your hearts, have a think about maybe what you wanna do in this moment, but we're gonna worship our great God now.
Hey Crossfire, we're back with another week of worship. So if you guys would like to posture your heart, we're going to sing together. When I was searching, your love was never far. You made a way to get to me. You were the whisper leading me to your heart. Forever I belong to you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you are for me. You won't let go. Your love won't let me down. And I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you, holding on, and I know you will never fail. I want all of you, you never change. Your love won't let me down. Your love won't let me down. Right when I need you. Right when I need you, you listen as I pray. You'd leave the 99 for me. You paint the sky with promises of your grace. So I would find a way to you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you are for me. You won't let go. Your love won't let me down. And I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, hold on to you. I know you will never fail. I want more of you, you never change. Your love won't let me down. Your love won't let me down. You never change. Your love won't let me down. Your love won't let me down.
Hey guys, this is Abby and Mim, and this is Impact ASMR. is the tape. Nice. Now we have Coke. Now we have a set of car keys. Dusting off an old impact hat. Now putting on the impact hat. Pouring a drink. Having a chicken chippy. Pat Jones. Victory. Powerboats. Nobody ever picks archery anymore. Balboa is still the best team ever. Options Arvo. Dance party. She made it. Rathane pool.
Hey Kev, how you doing?
Hey Pat, I'm going good. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, doing well. What's happening over there in Prague?
Yeah, man, I just woke up. It's 8 in the morning. It's a school day for us. I'm a school teacher normally in my day job, but we have been teaching online for about 3.5 months, and we're not going to end because the school year finishes here in like a week or so.
Oh, wonderful. Bit jealous of the kids over there getting to tie up for the year. Hey, do you want to tell us, first of all, just tell us your name, and then I want everyone watching along to be able to get to know you a little bit. So can you play 2 truths and a lie with us after that?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Kevin Liu. I'm from Wollongong originally, but now I currently live in the Czech Republic. And as per Pat's request, 2 truths and a lie for you. I had them written down because I'm always stumped on this when I'm put on the spot. All right, I have a tattoo of a New York pizza slice. I have hung out with Nicki Minaj, and I've been inside North Korea.
I want the pizza to be the lie. That's what I want, because the other 2 are amazing. I'm gonna guess that Nicki Minaj is the lie.
Okay, does it count if it's like a half truth?
You're gonna have to explain that.
No, I have hung out with Nicki Minaj, like not personally. We were in the same room together, and I was literally, the security was like this 7-foot huge, muscular black guy, and it was Nicki Minaj, him, then me, and they walked right past me, and I was at an industry event. You'll hear about that stuff a bit later in New York City. And she was like, I think 6 or 7 hours late for a panel discussion. It was a very small, intimate event.
Okay. Were you on the same panel?
Nah, I was just attending. So half truth, half lie.
Okay. So what's the lie then?
I have been inside North Korea. That's also a bit of a gray area. I have been on the border. I have visited the border, but I've never been inside North Korea.
Okay. There you go. So you have a pizza tattoo though?
Yeah, I have a New York pizza slice on my ankle.
Makes sense. Special place in your heart?
I love New York and I love pizza. I got it in New York as well, so same trip as the Nicki Minaj trip. So
it's authentic at least. It's an authentic New York slice.
The tattoo artist said it's kind of become the new, I don't know, what was the like really trendy tattoo back in the day? Like infinity symbol or something. Everyone basic just gets it.
Yeah, okay. The new carp swimming upstream.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. We're chatting today because your background is in science and it's actually quite impressive. Can you just give us a rundown of what your careers look like in the world of science?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Wollongong, and it's a long time ago now, which is crazy to think about. And I studied medical radiation physics. So I was on the career path of a research physicist. And I finished my honors or my master's, and then from that, I went straight into a PhD. because I like studying. I like learning about physics and science. It's just something that I've always enjoyed. I've always had other interests as well, but this science thing seems to be working out. And yeah, I finished my PhD around 2015. Yeah, 2015. But then halfway through that time, when I was a researcher, I was sent over to Europe to work full-time at the university here in Prague. And during that time, I was working for CERN. I don't know if you've heard of CERN. It's the big international collaboration based in Geneva, Switzerland. And they have like a scholarship program around Europe. So I was part of that, working with this cutting edge technology that they use down in the Large Hadron Collider, but applying it in a medical context. So I was doing some prostate cancer research for a couple of years. And after that, I had another position in the Czech Academy of Sciences, working in a physiological institute with laser microscopes, looking at cells and physiology of the whatever, really. That was a bit different, and that lasted for about a year or so. And more recently, I switched a little bit, and now I'm a high school teacher. So there's no telling where your career can take you, guys.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot for a young man like you. What age were you when you hit up university?
Here it is. I was 16 when I finished the HSC.
Okay.
So my birthday's in October. So I turned 16, then the HSC started, I remember. 2005, I did the HSC, now I think about it. So I don't know, maybe some of you who are watching this weren't even born yet. But I was accelerated 2 years. So I'm 2 years younger than where I'm, I guess you could say, meant to be in life. And yeah, so I started university when I was 16. I got my PhD when I was 25 or something, 26.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Looking back, it does seem really crazy. But at the time, it was just like, all right, whatever. This is what I'm doing.
Well, I struggled through general maths, but got there in the end. I don't know if that's impressive or not. You said a few things in there. Give us some clarity. So you said CERN and the Hadron Collider. Can you tell us what those two things are?
So CERN is a French acronym. It's basically a nuclear physics research facility. I don't know how to say the French words. And it's a giant underground, what's called a particle accelerator. So they're interested, these physicists and scientists are interested in looking at the very fundamental building blocks of nature, of matter. And the way we do that is you get protons, I don't know if you're doing physics at school, 2 little protons, and you smash them at each other as fast as you can. So you need a very large, very powerful, what's called an accelerator.
Yeah.
Imagine just a bunch of electromagnets going pew, pew, pew. And these protons spin around near the speed of light, they smash into each other. And the faster you smash them into each other, they basically explode. And then what makes up those things you can see, right? And it's very complicated, it's very high tech, very high energy, and it's deep underground because they don't want to get interference from outside radiation. And the big discovery, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, was the Higgs boson, which is what was proposed, a theory was proposed several decades ago. And they finally got some experimental evidence for this, what's called the Higgs boson. So things that are smaller than protons, things on the really quantum physics level. Obviously, there are a lot of other side experiments as well. They're not just doing one experiment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically trying to understand why, well, not why, but how things are at a more and more detailed level. And there are scientists from all over the world involved, Italians, French, Germans, well, me, and lots of Latinos, Americans, everyone's there working on this huge collaboration.
Nice, there you go. Sounds like Ant-Man style stuff to me.
Yeah, it's basically, if you remember when Iron Man was trying to build some, what was he doing? He was creating a new element in his basement, and he had that little thing, he used Captain America's shield to put it up. It was like a little Easter egg.
Yeah.
That's a particle accelerator, but obviously in a movie.
Yeah. And yours was giant. How big is giant?
It's 30 kilometers around.
Okay.
And it basically it borders around France and Switzerland, so it goes into 2 countries.
That's
and
nice.
it's 80 to 100 meters underground, and it's 67 stories tall at the detection part. So on my Facebook, actually, recently I shared a selfie I did with it, and it's pretty big. It's pretty big. that's like one of the detectors, because there are a lot of sub-experiments and sub-detectors as well.
That's
So yeah,
cool.
it's big. It's really mind-blowing. You should look up the technology and even just the photos, the visuals are really incredible.
Awesome. So obviously you've been on the cutting edge of kind of modern science and what that looks like, but you're also a man of faith. Can you just walk us through your faith journey, where that's come from, what that looks like?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I was lucky to grow up with parents who are Christian, and they always raised me to understand that that's what they believe. They read the Bible. They took us to school, to church and Sunday school and everything. And it was always just part of kind of the cultural aspect of my upbringing. And I more or less accepted it. But it wasn't until university when I really kind of, I guess, grappled with it more on an intellectual level, with the student ministries that are operating in campuses. And that's when I really was hit or struck by the fact that, oh, actually I can think about this on a deeper level. It's not just, oh, Jesus is like the Sunday school answer, right? You can actually ask the big questions. You can actually have discussions or debates, which is a very, classic university student attitude. And going to these camps or conferences and attending the debates, the talks. For me, that's what I gravitate to, with the intellectual side of it. And it's always been just a constant journey of that discovery. I don't have like a, Saul on the road to Damascus moment that can kind of stick out of my life. But it's just a constant journey of discovering what is my purpose, what is God's purpose for me. Even the fact that, I've been given this brain that likes dealing with the physics, with the maths. That was one motivator for me to actually consider, pursuing a career in science for a while, because I had a friend or a mentor at my church in Wollongong who also was a physicist. And he said to have that ability and to have that passion for science and to be a Christian is a very powerful tool, and rare even, to have a Christian in any science, let alone physics, is quite cool. So he advised me to consider doing the PhD, because I was thinking of doing other stuff at the time. I was still young. I was thinking of maybe doing a big switch. And it was actually it played a part of me deciding to pursue the career in science.
Yeah, that makes sense. So my experience going through school, and a lot of people as they go through university, there's that tension of the science team versus the Jesus team. And it seems like people act like it's not compatible. For someone like you who's advanced through the field of science, but also has a relationship with Jesus, how do you see those two things coming together?
So there's the stuff you see in the media, there's the stuff that we see in the real life, right? So the stuff we see in the media is always based on conflict. So that's what sells stories, is me against them or us against them, right? And that was kind of the main narrative that was sold from a lot of the early 2000s and 2010s, was between, like I said, science versus the religion discussion. And it's, we call it like a false dichotomy, in the sense that there's no reason that science and religion should be against each other, right? There are three ways to kind of look at the way science and faith can interact. So there's the conflict way, there's a mutually exclusive way where they have their separate worlds and they have nothing to do with each other. And then there's the integrated way, which is they actually have things that kind of complement each other in their discussion. So the conflict way is our default thinking, because, oh, science knows everything. We can understand gravity, we can understand the age of the universe, blah, blah, blah. We don't need God anymore. But on my own personal experience level, working in the field of science, my colleagues, my classmates at university, they knew I was Christian. And in reality, they're completely fine with it. It didn't discredit me from being able to publish papers. They didn't think I was an idiot for believing in God. In fact, some of them would come to the Christian talks and have discussions with me. Some of them would, ask me questions just at the pub or whatever about my faith and my beliefs. And some of my professors at University of Wollongong were Christians as well and actively involved in the Christian Union. And their colleagues, these are guys who are, 20, 30 years older than me with much more experience in the field, and they're well respected as well. So what you see in the media and what we kind of accept as the default, what I said, narrative regarding science versus religion, even on my own personal experience at ground level, it doesn't exist, right? We talk about these things. We understand that I believe in God, and this is why. You don't believe in God, so why is that, right? And so it's an interesting way that we kind of assume that, because it, just from my own, like I said, personal experience, it doesn't happen. And so, I just wanted to put that out there, that scientists in the field accept that there are scientists who believe. The ones who make the most noise about science versus religion are most often not actual scientists. They're bringing into the debate their own presumptions or their own prejudices, right? And not being open to having just a civil discussion. And even just recently, have you heard of Brian Cox?
Oh, I've heard the name.
Yeah, he's a physicist from the University of Manchester, but he's kind of like an educator as well. He does a lot of public lectures and talks. And he was just on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was on ABC Q&A last year.
Okay.
And even he was probably the world's most famous physicist right now. I don't know, after Stephen Hawking perhaps. And he was like, there's a lot that we don't know. As scientists, we can measure things, we can observe things. We can't have opinions and we can't say the earth is flat because we measured it and it's not. But there are a lot of things we don't know. And he didn't equate philosophy and theology, but he said fields like philosophy and theology, they have perfectly valid fields and spheres to work in. And he respects that. And to work within a framework of scientific observations is completely valid. And he said, we just don't know. And the questions of why, and the questions, the deeper questions, are important questions to be human. And as like I said, a world-renowned physicist who publishes books about quantum physics, who publishes, he's got documentaries. It's kind of like a Neil deGrasse Tyson, but British. And he's saying, there's lots of stuff we know, but there's lots of stuff we don't know. So he was reminding scientists that scientists have to have a measure of humility when discussing these things. And I think it's also a good reminder, even from him, that as Christians, we should also have a degree of humility when discussing these things. And so I kind of forgot what your original question was, but...
Just talking about faith and science. So it sounds like you're happy to take that science kind of framework of kind of living off data and evidence and carry that with faith at the same time. Is that a fair way of summarizing it? Yeah,
they're two perfectly valid things to hold, and they both amplify each other in a way. My understanding of the way, the way that atoms hold together and the way that, quantum mechanics works, even though my understanding is very rudimentary, that enhances my appreciation of God as how does anyone do this, right? Why does it work? How does it work like that? It amplifies my appreciation of God. And then vice versa, my understanding that there is some sort of creator or designer behind it, it amplifies my appreciation of the science and the equations that all work out in balance. Even as a maths teacher in high school, right, at a much lower level, I try to remind my kids, there's no reason for these numbers to do this. Logically and philosophically speaking, why does this happen? Why do numbers why does X equals blah, 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 right? For example, it's on a bit of a tangent, but with trigonometry, right? Trigonometry, do you remember anything about trig? Did you do trig in general maths, Pat?
I think so. I can't remember.
I think it was trig in general maths. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I think so.
This is how I teach trig. There's a bunch of old Greek dudes drawing triangles.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, look, these triangles have a relationship. The sides are always the same.
Yeah.
Ratio. So they drew a bunch of triangles, they measured them, they wrote down the values, they saw the pattern, right? They graphed this pattern. Do you remember what a sine curve looks like?
Yes. I think.
Yeah, it's like this, right?
Yeah, up and down.
Like a wave, right? So think about it. However many hundreds of years ago, these old Greek dudes drew some triangles. They came up with this wave. This wave, it describes the way that light travels through space. It describes how sound works. It describes how waves, like wave motion, works in the ocean. just from the fact that they drew a bunch of triangles on, I don't even know they had paper back then.
Yeah.
Right? So
Chiseled it. Yeah.
It's mind-blowing when you really think about it. And it's like, for me, I don't see how you can look at that and then be like, oh, that's just by coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Some people would do, and that's fine. That's totally their choice. And that's the thing. The final step is not necessarily about how much evidence do I have that can convince me that there's a God. The last step is always the question of faith, right? That's the last step is, do I choose to believe or do I choose not to believe? We can never have enough evidence to say that there is God, in the same way that atheists may never have enough evidence to say there is no God.
Yeah.
So it's a very complicated question, and I think the other thing that people have to remember is we've been discussing these things for 2,000 plus years, right? And it's an important discussion to have, but there's not necessarily no, science is all the answers, or no, religion is all the answers.
Is there anywhere in the Bible, in the Word, where you'd go as you wrestle through this and think through all of that?
Yeah, for sure. Like regarding what I said before about having humility, I think that's very important in these discussions, right? Like you're saying, you remember it was always the Jesus camp versus the science camp. And I'm reminded by the verse in 1 Peter where we're asked to always be prepared to give an answer to everyone, right? I think we always focus on the first half. We always say, yes, be prepared to have an answer, or like debate with everyone, argue with everyone. But then the second half, it's 1 Peter 3:15, right? The second half is, I'll read the whole thing. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect, right? We tend to forget the second half. The first half is like, yeah, I want to answer everyone. I have all the answers for everything. And I think that's what we're forgetting, is that civil discussion element. And the other two verses that I have in mind as well when I'm thinking about faith and my science is obviously the verse in Romans. I have it here as well, and how that everyone is without excuse. Romans 1:20. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. So we can see nature, we can see the patterns, we can see how the triangles can relate to sine curves, which relate to sound and relate to electromagnetism, and that's like mind-blowing. But at the same time, people can see that, but this idea of, I can't get to only a couple of minutes, right? But there's the special revelation and general revelation, right? You know it. So we can see nature, but we can't understand the gospel message by looking at the sky. We can't understand who Jesus was by looking at stars. And that's why that idea with the 1 Peter verse is that we have to be the one to come with the answers in that regard.
Yeah.
And lastly, one of the most important verses for me, which kind of is a nice segue into the next thing you wanted to talk about, is when Jesus is talking who's he talking to in Matthew 22? Oh, no, it's they ask him, teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? The Pharisees, right? Matthew 22, 36, 37. And Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind, right? So heart and soul and mind. For me, in the mind regards as referencing my intellect. What do I like to enjoy regarding science and maths for me? Or maybe for someone who's more drawn to literature, reading all kinds of books or reading, history books to understand the whole story of humanity, right? That's what we're trying to do, and figuring out how we can love God even through those actions. Heart and soul, we kind of understand as very spiritual stuff, but the mind, how do we engage the mind in that way? So those are, I don't know, just 3 quick little verses that kind of help shape my faith and science in that way. Although I haven't professionally done science in a while now, because I'm busy teaching algebra to unappreciative 12-year-olds, but hey, you do what you do, right?
I love that. I love what that all brings together, that 1 Peter verse. I feel like could be a cure for a lot of what's wrong in society at the moment, if we're able to disagree with humility and gentleness and actually discuss. And then, I've always been passionate about that idea of loving God with your mind as well, because I think it's evident throughout the history of the church where, Christians built the modern education system. It's not something that we're like, oh no, modern education came and we didn't know. it was built by the church. And so it's really encouraging to hear that from someone who understands so much and who can look at what is known from creation at such a deep level and still see the glory of God come through that. So thank you for sharing on that. That's awesome.
My pleasure.
Well, thanks so much, Kev, for coming in and enlightening us and kind of what you're doing and how God and science work so well together in your heart, in your soul and in your mind. I think that's really encouraging. For you guys watching, we're actually going to chat with Kev again in a couple of weeks. And we're actually going to talk about pop culture, which is exciting. And can you confirm for us, Kim Kardashian has shared something you've written on social media, is that right?
That is correct. She has retweeted me, the actual Kim K.
Wow,
Kim
exciting. Exciting time. So we're going to chat a bit about
highlight of my
pop culture
entire career.
Yeah, that's it. The highlight. That's when you know you've made it. So thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it and we'll chat to you again soon.
Cheers, Pat.
Just gone through the motions, I'm sorry. When I just sang another song, take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm caught up in your presence. I just want to sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. I just want you. I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you, God. Nothing else. Nothing else, Jesus. Nothing else will do. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else, Jesus. Nothing else will do. I just want you.
encouraged and that you got something out today. If you have any questions or maybe something was raised that you want to learn a bit more about, message your leaders or even message us on Instagram or Facebook, and we will get back to you as soon as we can.
So we will see you at 10 a.m. church on Sunday and throughout the week on our socials.
See you guys.